I'm making this video actually for a friend of mine, Madison, who had a question in regards to what happens when we die. So what happens with life after death? I know a lot of people can be kind of scared of this concept, or it's something that they don't often want to talk about, think about, and really don't necessarily know how to conceptualize that idea. Sorry, there's a plane going by. Conceptualize that idea of what happens when we no longer have a body. And again, that can be quite scary because most of us, all of the memories that we have consist currently of being in this three-dimensional body. But again, part of this video is to kind of put your mind at ease and really explain that we are much more than our physical bodies. So one of the best ways to really understand this is the fact that when you think about where you were before you were actually born, you never feel a lot of fear around that. It doesn't, bring on a panic attack or something that's, too scary to conceptualize. And that's kind of how I like to explain it to anybody that asks me these kind of spiritual questions, is really that, it is a very peaceful place. In terms of where you're going to go, I can't really tell you that because there are so many different layers and levels to what I guess we could conceptualize as heaven, but it's essentially a higher dimensional existence than Earth, and you're going to be seeing similar things to Earth. I mean, there's a lot more light and love, and there's not all this chaos and contrast. That's why, obviously, when we come to Earth, there's a lot to learn, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming and scary. But, in the higher realms, there's art, there's learning, there's definitely, healing and so much wisdom that you gain, and also a lot of rest and relaxation, because it's not a difficult plane to exist on. Now, again, when we think about where we're going and where we want to end up, there are some important points to factor into it. So I know I've done videos before, or a video before, on hell, or the idea of what happens or what hell is. There are other realms or planets that are much denser and darker. There's more chaos than planet Earth. So again, that can be something to think about, because again, it's not that, like any soul that has completed a lifetime and is going to be ending up on a darker, more chaotic planet, generally that's the polarity they resonate with anyways. They like to fight, they like the darkness. That's something that resonates with them. I mean, you're not going to have somebody that's a very kind, good, giving, compassionate person ending up in the lower dimensions, the lower densities anyways. But if you are a person that is really wanting to ascend, wanting to get to that higher plane, then it's something you might want to think about, because a lot of people are simply just walking around asleep. What does that mean? It just means like they're not conscious of what they're doing. They haven't awakened yet to the fact that there is something that is behind all of this, that there is a power beyond us. And especially in the 21st century, in ages gone by, people were very spiritual. People did really have a deep belief in religion. Now, it was a little bit more dogmatic, so a lot of times, a lot of that religion was helped to really control the masses. But the people that believed in these principles really, truly believed, even though some of the teachings and some of the ways that religion was utilized wasn't always for the greater good, people still had a deep-seated respect for spirit. When we're thinking about how we want to lead our life and what we want to do with our time each and every day, we do really want to start considering, where we want to end up. And it's not like you are planning for the end of your life, but you do have to think about where you want to end up after this existence here on planet Earth is complete. And it's not, I mean, you shouldn't really be doing things because you want a reward. But if that is the catalyst to you starting to think about these things, then that's okay as well. Essentially, you should want to do the right thing and the most compassionate thing because it is an intrinsic part of your being. That's the best way to calibrate to a higher vibration. But if in the beginning it is just because you want to ensure that you're going to end up someplace nice after you pass away or after you're no longer using this body, that's okay as well. And then you'll start to learn the lessons that you need to learn. And as you go along the spiritual path, as you are working on your own awakening and your ascension, you're going to start to realize that, again, it's not so much about the reward, it's about the journey and it's about what you're learning. Because again, wisdom in combination with love is always what is sort of the highest expression of what we are trying to be. And all of us are all just souls here that are learning and growing together. So if we can understand that everybody that we interact with is both a teacher and our student. So every time that I am with another human being or with another animal, plant, whatever it is, I understand that there is a teaching, learning, teaching relationship. I never assume that I know everything because, again, that would stunt my own growth. That would basically impede wisdom from acclimating within myself. I need to always be learning to be able to keep along the path of growth that I need to be in as well. So even as I'm teaching, I also realize that there are going to be thousands of lessons each and every day, which I'm so super grateful for. Okay, so back to life after death, life before death. What happens? So we are all spirit. What does that mean? Essentially, that means we are an energy. We have an energetic frequency that is the core essence of what we are. That energy, once it's created, is eternal. It lasts forever. It is always learning, growing. Sometimes it goes into a dormant state. That is similar to when we are sleeping at night. So energy can rest, and that is part of how it regenerates and recharges and reacclimates. So again, there is rest in the celestial realms as well. There are healing centers, it's like going into a cocoon where essentially you're not having to use everything that you are. You're just in a beautiful, blissful, restful state. And there's parts of the higher dimensions that have that aspect. There's also councils, boards, meetings of the minds. There's the Akashic records where everything, essentially all of the knowledge exists, and all of the knowledge about your soul and all other souls. That is where that knowledge resides and where it is looked over. And the whole purpose of all of this is creation. So creation is never ending. So again, not to be in fear. So it's really, really important that we don't exist in fear. When we're thinking about our lives, when we lose loved ones, when we think about life after death, we don't need to be afraid of that. As long as we're leading, a life of learning, as long as we're trying to learn our lessons, as long as we are, acting in forgiveness, acting in compassion, being as loving as we can with ourselves and others. And that means forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves if we haven't always done it right. We are here to learn. Earth is a school. And once we've identified that there's something that we can do better, it's our job to do better. Once we know that maybe our behavior or our thoughts, deeds, actions aren't as pure or as kind as they could be or helpful, then we need to make those adjustments. When we end up being in a karmic cycle is when we are doing the same thing over and over, and basically the world is going to mirror that lesson back to us until we get the hang of it. But that's why we're here. So again, really not residing in too much judgment. Now, again, what happens to our loved ones when they pass over or to the other side, or what happens to us when we no longer have this three-dimensional body. It shouldn't be scary. That's not the purpose of it. However, we don't remember because, again, that veil of forgetting, or that aspect of non-remembrance, is how we really learn the lessons we're here to learn, and it really changes our soul when we learn them. Because again, we feel like we only have this one lifetime. We very much feel like we have to do this. It's like do or die, essentially. And that's, if it wasn't like that, we really wouldn't make these big drastic changes. They wouldn't feel so heavy, and it wouldn't be such a dynamic way to learn. So where do our loved ones go? Well, they're going to travel to another dimension. They won't have a body anymore. The body is just, it's basically matter that is going to disintegrate and become part of the mineral kingdom, become organic matter. It's going to be utilized as the building blocks for new life, which is, again, beautiful. That's, part of the whole cycle. But what happens to our essence? What happens to the soul, the frequency that we are, or our soul song, whatever you want to call it? It's going to travel beyond the body, and it, essentially, it will kind of float out, and you're going to, go and travel to whatever realm is your next destination. And you know what? I can't tell you that. No psychic can tell you that. No teacher can really tell you that, because again, it's not calibrated, or it's not decided until the end of your life. And so it's not something that is predestined or predetermined. We do come here with a set of desired learnings. So before we incarnate on any planet, we do come with sort of a roadmap of what we want to learn. But again, everything is always recalibrating in the universe at all times. So it is not like your life is predetermined and everything is going to happen at a certain, interval, and that God is all-knowing of all these things. It's true that Source is all-knowing of what is the entirety of everything in any given now moment. That is correct. But the whole purpose of creation is there's always going to be a next now. So the next now is unknown, and that is the beauty of existence. We wouldn't want to know everything, and I think that there's a lot of misconception often where it's taught that God knows everything that's ever going to be and ever will be. That would be extremely boring, and that would not be something that the Creator would want. It's just not what the Creator would desire. Again, it's just as we don't wish to know everything, because if we knew absolutely everything, what would be the point? If we knew the beginning, middle, end, and then the end of the end and the beginning of the beginning, and everything was all spelled out for us, what would be the point of even existing? So again, that is something that, again, is not always taught correctly. So I want to do my due diligence to at least impart as much of my wisdom as I can